Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, Fish Den 365. I'm Den Haring, and if you watch this video to the end, I promise you, you're going to have your mind blown. What am I talking about? Well, today we're going to be talking about a particular soft plastic bait that I think is the most versatile bait that you could ever fish with, and I'm going to demonstrate all the different ways that you can fish with it. What is that bait? It is the Jean Leroux Biffle Bug. This is a 5-inch Biffle Bug. It also comes in a 4.25 and I think a 3.5 inch, 3 different sizes. And the Biffle Bug can be fished in so many different ways. It's just the most versatile soft plastic bait I've ever come across, and today I'm going to show you exactly why. You're not going to believe how many different ways you can fish this, and these are all top quality methods. Every one of these things I'm going to show you today, it'll catch fish if you do it. It's amazing how good this bait really is. Okay, so let's begin at the basics. The Jean Leroux Biffle Bug was created by Tommy Biffle, and it was meant to be used with a wobble head, which is just basically a free swinging hook on a football head, and it allows it to swing freely. And you just Texas rig the bait on there. I like to always have it so that there's a hole in this Biffle Bug, so I like to have the tail on top so that when it's going down and when you're moving it through the water, that tail undulates more that way. It makes the bait work more. And so when you throw this out there and reel it in, these legs are flipping and flapping and the tail's moving and the bait just moves along real well. And it's caught so many people, so many fish, me included. It's a really good method. But there's something that I like to do even more than this with the wobble head, and that is I'll take the larger bait. I like to fish large baits with my wobble head, and I will cut these legs off and fish it on the wobble head like this, without the legs. Same idea. Why do I do that? Well, these legs, as much as they move and undulate, and that's a good thing, and it catches fish that way, nothing wrong with that. I like to fish this bait really fast on the bottom. And these legs do two things. They add lift, so it keeps the bait off the bottom a little bit, and they also stabilize the bait. It doesn't wobble back and forth as much as it would if you cut the legs off. So when I cut the legs off, I could fish it faster on the bottom, and it also has more of a crazier action because there's no stabilizing legs on the side. And so if you fish the Biffle Bug this way, sometime try it just like this with the bigger size Biffle Bug and see if you don't catch a few more fish doing it. The next best known way to fish a Biffle Bug is on a Texas rig. So I have one here set up. I like to use a 3/0 hook for this. I also like to fish this in grass, also in wood. And when I'm fishing grass, I tend to use a heavy weight, 1/2 ounce, 3/4 ounce. I want that thing to fall fast. And you could, again, you could fish this bait just like this with the legs and you get that flappy action. But I'm going to tell you that you will catch a whole lot more fish day in and day out if you cut these legs off and fish it like this. And the reason for that is when you fish it like this, it has a very interesting action, a lot like a beaver style bait. It glides. You cannot predict the way this is going to fall. It does not fall straight. It'll go this way, it'll go that way, it'll go this way, it'll go into the weeds and turn. It glides to the bottom, and that gliding action looks like a scared or injured bait fish, sunfish, shad, whatever the bait is. And this thing catches them when you do that. I like to chartreuse the tail, just put a little tip of chartreuse on the tail, and I'll fish it just like I fish a beaver. I'll throw it out there, just pitch it out and let it go through the grass. It comes through the grass real well because there's no appendages to get hung up on it, and it's simple, but man, does it catch fish. If you haven't fished it this way, you got to try it, because when that bites on, especially when that little weed bluegill bite or that weed shad bites on and that bait's going like that and falling that way, and that fast fall with that heavier weight, oh man, you can catch a ton of fish doing it, and it's a great way to fish it. Now when I'm fishing the Texas rig, if I'm fishing heavy grass, I'll peg that weight. But if I'm fishing lighter grass or lighter cover, I like to keep the weight free, and that way the weight will come down before the bait hits the bottom, and so you get that more of that free rig look with it. Now recently I did a video and it got a lot of views for me. It got a lot of views. And that was, I put the Biffle Bug, I cut those same legs off and I put it on a chatterbait. And I rig it vertically. In other words, I have the hook come out where these spines are on the top. Not on the flat side of the bait, but this side, so that it has that bait fish profile. And that tail is special when you rig it this way. You're fishing this crazy chatterbait, and that tail has this quiver to it. It doesn't do this like some other baits, but the quiver looks so real. It looks just like a little bait fish, a scared bait fish swimming along. And so this on a chatterbait is fantastic. Now, how did I get the idea to throw this on the chatterbait like this? Well, a long time ago, I started playing with the Biffle Bug on just a straightforward jig the same way, hooking it the same way, out the side like this, not the flat side, but the top side. And I really liked this. I caught so many fish on it. Don't that look like a bluegill? The profile of it, or even a shad. If it's spring, I like to fish a white jig with a green pumpkin chartreuse Biffle Bug, and that looks a lot like a shad then. But this is meant to be more of a bluegill. This is what I would throw a lot in the summertime. I caught so many fish on this bait back in the day. I called it the magic jig. I still refer to it as the magic jig because it caught me so many fish, and it catches big fish too, not just little ones. I've caught so many fish in the 5 to 7 pound range, largemouth bass on this bait. It caught smallmouths as well. It's just a really good way to fish the Biffle Bug. Now you could also fish this so that the well, let me just show you. I'm going to pull this off, and you could fish this so that it would be. Let me rig this back up again here. Just going to do this kind of very quickly. It should be about right. Now I've rigged it where it's flat like this. This gives it a bit more of a crawfish profile instead of a baitfish profile. But this works too because that tail is sticking in their face. And so do a way to rig this jig. You can rig it either way, and both are deadly. So, you know, how many ways have we talked about fishing a Biffle Bug, and we're not even close to being halfway through? We got a lot more ways to show you, and if you, I hope you stay until the end, because at the end I'm going to show you a few ways that are going to definitely blow your mind. I've never seen anybody show anybody this. I don't think anybody's doing what I'm doing with these Biffle Bugs, because if they are, they're not putting it on the internet. And if you're a content provider and you see this and you want to make a video based on what you see on this video today, the only thing I ask you is that you give me the credit for it, because this is stuff that I've spent a long time thinking about, experimenting with, playing with, and so it's just been a lot of time invested for me. But I really like this bait, and today you're going to find out why. Okay, sticking with the trailer idea. Here's a buzzbait. And here's a 5-inch, but I'm going to use you could use a 4-inch as well. So I'm just going to pull this off this jig so I can reuse the same bait here. So why not set it up as a trailer? So another way to fish the Biffle Bug, as a trailer on a buzzbait. This tail will swim as the bait is buzzing along the surface. Another good way to fish it. Now, you could also leave the skirt on the buzzbait too and just have that tail hanging out, but this looks good. If you're just fishing this real fast along the surface, it has a really good look to it, and so that's another way you can do it. While we're on the trailer kick, we'll show you another idea. why not on a spinnerbait? Same idea as what we've been talking about, right? So let's put it on a spinnerbait and see what that looks like. Pretty good, huh? So, and if you want that tail to work even more, you can cut the skirt back just to maybe a quarter or half an inch, cut the skirt back. But this is a good, real good trailer to put on a spinnerbait because that crazy tail, look at that. You see that? I'm not even hardly, I can't make the tail not move. I mean, I'm hardly doing any vibration at all, and that tail is undulating down there. And that's what makes that bait special. All right, let's continue on. Now we talked about chatterbait. There's another way of fishing that is very similar to a chatterbait. A lot like the chatterbait, but more subtle, more of a finesse presentation for it. Now this is a little small. I should have a larger one, but I don't have one with me. But you'll get the idea. These are sometimes called scrounger heads. They basically have a lip, and it's a jig head, and that lip resists water, and it just wiggles and vibrates like crazy. So you can imagine that if you were to rig your Biffle Bug like this, well, you're going to have a bait that just goes like crazy, and it's wobbling and working. And I've caught a lot of fish doing this, and you can almost make it weedless by taking one of these little spines and just putting it on the hook. Just put the hook through the spine like that. Now it's kind of weedless. It's already pretty weedless because of that lip, but you can fish it through wood a little better. And because that plastic is so soft and small, when a fish bites down on it, it just pokes right through, and you're going to hook that fish. But another great way to fish the Biffle Bug is on one of these scrounger type heads. You can actually make a topwater presentation out of this if you fish it fast enough. You can throw it out there, as soon as it hits the water, you engage your reel and you start reeling, and you keep this on the surface, and it's breaking the surface. And man, this thing just looks like an injured baitfish skittering along. Another great way to fish the Biffle Bug. All right, so we got a lot more to go. Here is another way you can fish a Biffle Bug by using an underspin. So we'll rig it up as though we were going to fish with the underspin. Push it up on the head as best I can there, and there you have an underspin with the Biffle Bug. Now you can choose different colors, obviously. If I was fishing that Buzzbait, for example, and I'm fishing a shad bite, I would choose this kind of color, something that looks like a shad. Cut the legs off, put that on the Buzzbait, and now you got a shad-looking lure. Just a different color. You use the colors to imitate the type of bait fish and forage that you want. Back to the underspin, you can see that this thing is going to have a really nice action to it as well. Again, much more subtler than a swim bait. And with the swim bait, with the tail, you have that kind of action. Sometimes they don't want that. Sometimes they want something with the spinner, but a little more subtle. It's got that bait fish profile. These spines, I actually think, help with the bait fish profile as it's moving through the water. You can cut them off if you want, but I prefer to keep them because I think it makes the bait look a little more shaped like a shad or a bluegill. And so another great way to fish the bait right here. Now, today, before I did this video, I was watching to see, I was looking at some other YouTube videos to see if anyone else was fishing the chatterbait the way I do. And I didn't see anything except for one that fished it in a modified way that I haven't done. And it was a Jacob Wheeler video where he cut the tail off and had just the legs coming off. And he fished it as a jig, and this way with the top, with this, with the wobble head. And I think he fished it on a chatterbait that way too. So there's another way. You can cut the tail off and you still have these legs, and they're going to move and undulate and create quite a bit of action as well. Okay, another way to fish the Biffle Bug is with a jig head inserted into the tube part of the Biffle Bug. You can use a tube type head. I've just chosen a round head here. I'm going to wet it first because I want to slip it into the head of the jig. I mean the head of the Biffle Bug. And I'm just going to insert it in here, and I'm going to shove it up as far as I can. Now, because I can go up further than the hook is long, I'm going to just cut the back here, just a little notch, so I can push this all the way up and still have the hook sticking out. So here we go. I'm going to shove this up as far as I can get it up in there now. There we go. And then cut this front spine off so you can see what I'm doing. And we just poke that eye out. You see the eye poked out there? Tie onto that, and you can fish it this way. And that looks like just like a bait fish going through the water with that tail swinging. Now the other thing you can do is you can do it flat. You can turn this thing, and in this case I'll have to cut up the back here. See I'm just going to cut a little slot so that hook will go in there nicely. Show you this in a second. Once I cut it, you'll see what I did. So all I did was I cut a little gap right down the middle. See that? I just cut that little gap down the middle like that so that the hook can lay flat in there. Now I'm going to push that as far up as I can. And then, again, you just press that head out right like that. And then you just tie onto there, and now you have it flat this way, and you can fish it this way, and that tail will undulate around, and looks more like maybe a leech this way, or an injured bait fish on its side. You can see how all these things look underwater next. So here is another way you can do it, is easier still, with one of these. This is a Core Tackle TUSH, the ultimate swim bait head. And you can do the same thing here. You can put this in, slide it all the way as far up as you can get it to go. Poke that eye out and line tie there, and now you have now instead of falling more this way, it'll fall more horizontally, which I find is kind of nice if you want to keep the bait down when you reel it in. You want to keep it near the bottom. This kind of does that nicely, as the bait is more horizontal in its orientation as you're reeling it in. And again, you can do the same thing with this TUSH on the flat side. In other words, turning it around so that it's this way. Fish it either way. You can also fish it very similarly on a hover rig. You would just be a lighter way of fishing the jig. I would probably cut this off and then just insert it where I want it. Well, let me show you. So if I want to fish it as a hover rig, I just work that wire guard off. That just makes it easier for me to deal with this thing. So as a hover rig, I would put the hook in where I want the eye to come out. So that might be right here. So I'm just going to insert this hover rig where I want it to go. Have it come out here. And then I'm just going to slip it in. There we go. And then I just need to push it down in and then have that nose go into the plastic. So just got a little bit further to go here. Straighten it all out. And there we have it set up as a hover rig. And so this will have a real slow fall to it, and it'll have a very nice gliding motion to it as well. Good way to fish the bait. One of the very best ways I've found to fish the Biffle Bug is on a drop shot. And again, I fish this two ways as well. I'll fish it where it ends up being flat like this, and we'll show you what this looks like in the water. But I'll also fish it where it has the baitfish profile vertically this way. And both look really good under the water. The other way I fish it, I like to power shot a Biffle Bug. So what does that mean? Well, I take a Texas rig hook. I just Texas rig it like that and fish this on a drop shot. So my drop shot weight would be down here, and I'd have it Texas rig, and I'll fish that. And I'll fish that in the weeds and through different cover. Excellent way to fish the bait. Caught a lot of fish. Caught a lot of fish throwing it on a drop shot in all those different ways. Take a look to see how they look. Okay, well, if you stuck with me this far, you've seen a lot of different ways to fish the Biffle Bug, and I hope that you found this helpful. Now I'm going to show you another way to fish the Biffle Bug that has caught me a few very large fish over the years, and I've never shared it with anybody. So you're going to be the first to see it right here, right now. Okay, so here's one that I'll show you. I take a spoon. This is a spoon that I get from Janss Netcraft. It's narrower, so it fits into the Biffle Bug easier. I think this is a 1/2 ounce spoon from Janss. And I'll wet that spoon, and I'm just gonna shove it up that hole in the Biffle Bug as far up as I can go. Just gonna shove it right up in there. Now, what's gonna happen is at some point you'll get to the point where the head is not hollow. But I'm going to keep pushing until I get to that point. And when I get there, I'm just going to see what I'm doing. I'm just stretching it right through. And I just pop it right out like that. See how I did that? I have to hold the bait here and stabilize it because I'm pushing this through solid plastic here because it's hollow and then it's solid in the very top. But if you hold it and stabilize it and push it through, it'll go right through. And it has for me. So now I have my line tie there. And I just fish it just like this. I let the treble hook still stay on the bait. And I have this tail. And what this does is it'll work. You can work this a lot of different ways. You can swim it. It'll swim a little bit as you reel it in. But if you let it fall, it still falls like a spoon primarily. But you have this tail working as well. And for fish that have seen spoons, and spoon fishing is not real common, but there are lakes where a lot of people throw spoons. You throw this, and they haven't seen this. This is a different presentation with the spoon, and it catches fish. It's something that I learned quite a long time ago. And when I figured this one out, I tried it another way. And that's the second one that I want to show you. Now this next one I'm going to show you takes some work to make it work. But it's worth doing, and I'm going to use a blade bait inside. So the first thing I have to do is take the hooks off because they're going to be in the way. So I take the front hook off on the blade bait and just have the back hook on. I wet the blade bait and I'm just going to stuff it into my Biffle Bug. And you can see I have it stuffed up in there pretty good. It's actually fattened the bait a little bit. It's giving it a little bit of a belly. Now there's a couple of line ties and I have to find them on the bait. So I'm going to use a hook, or you can use a needle to find where they are, to find those holes. And it takes a little doing, but I just found it right here. It's in there. That's the hole. That's the second hole for the blade bait. Okay, so once you find that hole, we're going to try and get a snap to go through there. You need a pretty large snap because you got this plastic. I guess the better way to do it would just be to cut the plastic away from it. So let's do that. We're going to, now that we've got what we want, we'll cut this plastic away so it's easier to get to the hole. So I'm just cutting a couple of ribs off of my Biffle Bug. Show this to you in a second. See what I've done there? I've cut some ribs away so that I can get closer to that hole where my snap is going to go through. I'm just going to cut some more away. Just makes it that much easier. Won't have any effect on the action of the bait, but it will allow me to get that snap in there. So now let's open up. I got a snap here. I'm going to open this up, try and get it in that hole. And I got it. Took a little work, but we got it. So now I'm going to close that snap. And we've got the bait on there, and we'll show you what that looks like in the water. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video. It was sure a lot of fun putting it together for you. There's just so many ways to fish this super versatile bait. If you thought the video was worthwhile, if you thought it blew your mind, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Looking forward to getting another video out there to you soon, so keep it tuned here. And if you'd like to see the video where we're fishing the Biffle Bug on a chatterbait, take a look at this video right here. Until next time, be safe out there. Hope to see you on the water, and as always, may God bless your fishing endeavors.